Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well and having a good day. And if you're not having a good day, I think you'll feel better after watching this video because today I have the pleasure of speaking with Anna B. Anna, how are you?
Hi, Lucy. I'm very good, and thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Anna's YouTube channel is called Grow with Anna B, where she makes, in my opinion, excellent videos and informative talks about, quote, giving busy parents the tools and strategies to thrive by providing summaries of books on parenting. And that's paraphrasing, by the way, from Anna's About section. Anna, how old are your children now?
So I've got three kids, and now they are 11, 9, and 5. So it's been a journey. I think when I started the YouTube channel, I only had two, and they were 4 and 2.
Yes, yes. Wow, that's amazing. So, yes, we met on YouTube, and you said you found me through Anne Marie's, I believe, her guest appearance on We Are Awake TV, which
Yeah, that's right.
which eventually led you to my channel, correct?
Yeah, so my favorite thing to do, because I love doing all research and stuff, and my favorite thing to do is actually to find the smallest channel possible, because I realize that that's actually the ones holding so much more truth and authenticity. And I mean, that's been my experience anyway. So I love finding gems like your channel, and I was just so excited when I found you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and I feel like you have a very unique voice actually, and you bring a very different perspective from what I've seen before because of your own OBE experiences. And I just love that we're coming together and bringing our own pieces of the puzzle, because I feel like that's what we need to be doing. We all have something that we know or we feel very strongly, and if we combine all that together, then we might be able to work out like what's going on and be a lot more empowered. And I know that's what you're doing by interviewing a lot of different people.
Yes, yes, that's definitely one of my goals to talk with different people, get different ideas, not just post, but to engage, to have an interactive discussion, and let's figure all this out.
Yeah, I love that.
So let's start off with an introduction of yourself to the audience
Yeah.
and why you started your channel specifically.
Yeah, great. So I'm a French person living in Australia, and I'm a mom. I've got three kids, and I basically started this YouTube channel in 2020. And initially, it was born out of a deep compassion for parents, because during the pandemic, I saw how far parents were pushed, and I actually felt it was really unfair. There was a lot of compassion for nurses and teachers and all of that, dancing in hospitals and all that crap. But then the parents were at home, like working full time and having to do the homeschooling. And it was just absolutely ridiculous in my mind. And so it was this fire inside of me, actually. Like I was just so pissed off by the whole thing. And I wanted to share my own experience with inner work. So I might go into a little bit of the timeline, but a few years prior to me starting my YouTube channel, I was in a toxic relationship and with the father of my children for a decade. And, we all have that line in the sand when we say enough is enough. And for me, it was when he started calling me names in front of the kids. And I've got this really deep sense of responsibility for my kids based on my own toxic childhood. So when that happened, I started really diving deep into inner work. I was like, why did I choose that person? What work can I do? How can I be a better parent? And, how can I solve my relationships? So fortunately, at the time, he actually agreed to work together on that. And so that's when I had the opportunity to really dive deep into a lot of research. The way I work is really knowledge-based because I am more a left brain person. So I love reading and I love books. And that's how I started this whole thing. And I started reading books about psychology. I started reading books about communication. And I started reading a lot of books about parenting. And then little by little, I realized, oh my God, I've been so programmed by this society to, I don't know, I really didn't understand children. I mean, I wasn't working with children at all. I was not surrounded by any kids. And so, we are programmed with this preconceived idea that that get passed down from our own upbringing. And I actually started feeling really empowered by all these books that I was reading that were giving me tools and strategies on one hand, but also the actual understanding, because once you understand what's developmentally appropriate behavior for children, like it actually frees you so much. You can really detach from the 3D like madness of it all, and you can actually become so much more empowered and have the tools to navigate all of that. And so it was really born out of trying to empower parents, because I really truly feel that knowledge is power. This is why I agreed to come here, because I want to share all this and come together with our knowledge. Because there is something to be said about the programming that we've had to endure in this matrix. And a big part of deprogramming and doing that inner work is gathering the knowledge to like change our perception, change all the perception that's keeping us so stuck. And seeing it in action in my own journey, and seeing that once I changed those perceptions and I applied the knowledge, I really started becoming more free, like actually being able to, create a better life for myself and my kids, feeling more empowered. And the more and more, and we can go into more detail later on, but the more and more I go into this inner work, the more I actually feel it becomes a psychic protection. So to finalize, the timeline, I'm not actually with my partner anymore. I feel it's relevant as well, because during the whole pandemic, he actually turned on me, Agent Smith style, because I refused the job. And so, this was a whole thing, but that actually opened me to, the world of narcissism and all of that, because I literally, didn't understand. And that's where the programming comes in. I feel like I was given these rose-colored glasses, and for me, the last few years have been a process of really ripping those rose-colored glasses like one at a time. And I actually had, so initially, the initial journey that I'm talking about, where I started getting into inner work and reading books, I would call that more a psychological awakening, where, it was more about knowledge, it was more about the love and light side of New Age. And in 2021, I actually had what I would call a spiritual awakening. It's hard to describe. It felt like an activation on the inside. All of a sudden, the rose-colored were ripped off from a spiritual perspective first. Like I woke up to the really dark and evil side of this matrix first. And then I feel like I went through the back door, and then I woke up to COVID and all of that, and jabs being crap and all of that stuff. But it really felt like a huge grieving process at that point, where it honestly took me 2 years, Lucy, to grieve all of that. And a lot of inner work went into that, a lot of research went into that. But I really had to like grieve the world that I thought I was living in. To finally be awake and aware to the world I'm in, but from an empowered place, to no longer feel that emotional charge, that pain, that sadness. It took me a long time to actually grieve that. And it's only like at the beginning of this year that I really felt a shift inside of me. So that's why I like talking about inner work, because I feel like it's a process. It takes time. It's not as if you can just, flick your fingers and be like, oh, like it's all fake and it's, it's a perception that's wrong. It's actually a journey. Like you can't go from step 1 of the ladder to step 5 in one day. Like it actually takes a lot of time, because we do have, a lot of cognitive distortions, and a lot of resistance to seeing the truth, right? Because we've been so deeply programmed.
I love that. I definitely agree that the awakening process is a grieving process as well, but it takes a lot of strength to, come out of that with, the kind of insights that people like you have gained. And I really, really like what you said about, there came a point during your relationship where you had to draw a line in the sand. I really appreciate, honor, and respect that, because not many parents are that self-aware.
Yeah.
So that is incredible. That speaks volumes on your own character and on your character as a mother. Like you said, not wanting your children to see that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And actually, because you mentioned that, I want to say that, with my YouTube channel and, paying a lot of attention to parents and the parenting space and all of that, I don't know, I feel like it's like parents have lost their spark and parents have lost their sense of authority. And obviously it's been deeply programmed, and that's the agenda, right? It's a social conditioning, social engineering, that's very much at play and that I can see so clearly. So during my journey with that channel, I started reading a lot of books. Like I said, I started following a lot of parenting experts. And then little by little, I started connecting dots and realizing that some accounts that were really pushing the gentle parenting narrative just grew up from 0 followers to 1 million followers in 6 months. And I mean, I'm a very grounded person. I'm like, I smell a rat. Like, this is just not right, especially because, I've had a channel for so long and I just know it takes a long time to grow. Like, it's just, especially like in terms of sharing things about parenting, like it's not something that sells, usually. So I was like, okay, like there's clearly something there. And so because this is pushed a lot, I feel like a lot of parents are losing that sense of authority. It looks like losing your spark to me. It looks like losing that drive, that strong protector. Because even though, a lot of the gentle parenting books help me, I'm very much a believer of the middle path. We tend to swing different directions. A lot of us have been brought up with the authoritarian type of parenting. And so because we are so scared to damage our kids, the Matrix love to weaponize that against us. And we tend to want to swing to the gentle parenting. And then we presented with all these amazing experts that sound amazing. And, what they're saying sound amazing. But in practicality, you do need to those firm boundaries with my kids. And so that protector inside of me is so activated that I know I actually also need to protect my kids from the psychic realm, the spirit realm. And so it means that I need to enforce those strong boundaries. I need to teach them right and wrong. And that's the, building that character, like you said, a strong character, integrity, all those values, morality is what actually protects you here in this realm.
Beautiful. And I'd like to share, we talked about this before we started recording, but just for the audience, I personally am not a mother, but I love, love, love taking care of my friends' babies and toddlers on the side. I know if I was a mother, I'd be totally preoccupied and engrossed in it. I love, love taking care of babies and toddlers. I'm certified in my state for infant and toddler care. I used to work in daycare years and years ago. And in our training, we definitely did not go as in depth as you do in your videos. So I really appreciate your content.
Yeah, and actually a lot of teachers have commented on my videos saying the same thing. And that's when I realized that, because I didn't actually know that before, that the training, and especially my whole video series on child development, which is a whole book series explaining age by age what's actually developmentally appropriate behavior for children, that helps so many parents, but also educators, right, who are working with those toddlers to understand that, if a 5-year-old is, lying a bit, it's actually normal. It doesn't mean that you just let it slide. Of course, you need to, put those firm boundaries and consequences in place. But it means that you no longer make it mean something about your child that's just not there. You don't make it mean something so negative about your child or yourself, because we tend, people like us spirited beings tend to make it mean something about ourselves. We tend to take it so personally. And so having that knowledge actually frees you. It helps you to detach and be so much more effective in your parenting. So yeah, I'm so glad you share that, because a lot of teachers have shared the same thing with me.
Let's take a journey back a little bit. And touch on what you said before. So being a busy mom of 3, how did you learn about the New Age and the reincarnation cycle?
So I would say that I started looking into the New Age when I initially had my psychological awakening, and I started looking into inner work, because that's when you find all the big names. Because I feel like, whatever frequency you're at is where you're going to resonate with whatever message is being spread. So initially, when you start this journey, you're more attracted to the big names, like, I don't know, I can't think of any right now, like Deepak Chopra and all that stuff. And then the more you go into the inner work journey, the more you realize that there's a lot of bullshit there, and you start like becoming a lot more picky about who you're listening to. And so now I resonate a lot more with like smaller channels. But that's when I started that. And so, I went into the whole gratitude thing and, presence, which was very important, obviously, with children. And that was really, really helpful. Don't get me wrong. That was so helpful. I still feel like the essence of those messages are very, very important. But then we fall into the trap of going too far with that stuff. And so I think that's where I went. And that's where, when I had my spiritual awakening, that was a massive wake-up call. But to be honest, Lucy, I could never really fall very deeply in the New Age like others have, because of my violent childhood. And I actually witnessed my older brother. I witnessed the light go out of his eyes. He was a very vibrant, extroverted kid, and around 8 or 10, if my memory is correct, I witnessed it. I remember I was 2 years younger, and I vividly remember he changed. He changed so much. And to this day, he's become very introverted, very aloof, doesn't talk much. And so from that perspective, we all have different perceptions based on our experiences. And that experience, and obviously the experience of, having my childhood, just prevents me from going fully into the, everything happens for a reason. Like there's always a gut instinct that's there. That's just like, that's not really true. Like that's just not the full story. And so that really prevented me from fully deeply falling into the New Age. But then, I've been on a discernment journey since my spiritual awakening. And, it takes a while to really hone in to that skill. And it takes actually watching a lot of people that I probably wouldn't watch today, right? It takes actually getting it wrong and watching that. And because you need to actually tune into truth. And to be able to tune into that truth, you need to actually, it's like the pendulum swing that I was referring to. I love that analogy, because imagine that the truth is the middle. You need to push through both sides to actually find the center every time.
Wow, that is a beautiful explanation.
Yeah, so I don't know what was your experience with that, with the New Age. Was that similar for you?
No. So I knew nothing at all about the New Age, the reincarnation cycle, or anything. I spontaneously started having out-of-body experiences in 2018, and that sent me on a very challenging but very incredible journey. So I'll be talking about that more in some future videos, as well as other interviews that I'll be doing where the host of another channel will be interviewing me, or the host of another podcast will be interviewing me. So we'll definitely dive into that. But first, I wanted to share with the audience where they can find Anna B. Her official website is growwithannab.com. She has a Facebook, as well as an Instagram. And her YouTube channel, like we introduced in the beginning, you can find her at Grow with Anna B.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I'm actually not monetizing anything. Just want to make that clear. And I don't have the website anymore, but I have everything else. And it's funny, like the way I operate, and I do feel like actually why I'm not monetizing this channel is because I want to stay in integrity, and I don't want to be sort of like a slave to having a video every week for my subscribers. So if you look at my YouTube, you'll see that sometimes I take breaks, because I only really post when I feel inspired. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't monetize either, and I will never. My channel is very small right now, so I don't qualify for that anyway. But if my channel gets bigger, I won't be monetizing. I don't believe in that. I mean, no judgment to those who do. Everyone has their own situation. It's just I personally don't want to be a YouTube partner or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a personal decision. It's just for me. That's a decision that I've made. And it's funny because some people have told me in the past that I've got money blocks and like all the crap that you hear in the new age. And I know myself so well. I know it's not that. I don't have, money issues in real life. It's just so interesting how quick people are to make so many assumptions because they don't think the way you do. And for me, it's very much about staying in integrity. And I just want to share with people what I'm learning. It doesn't have to be monetized. We used to have side projects in the past. I feel it was a lot more like that, where a lot of people had hobbies and side projects and they were sharing freely. And then the new age had to come in and talk about all this money manifestation. And then it's become this crazy thing where you're actually an anomaly if you have a channel where you're not monetizing, and there must be something wrong about you.
Excellent. We're going to dive deep into Anna's experience on being a mother in the Matrix. In one of your videos, you compare the extreme fairy expectations of parenting to what you just said, the new age beliefs of manifesting, like manifesting money and things like that. So this new age belief of manifesting with just positive affirmations, I totally agree with your conclusion that that's total BS. Why do you think this new age idea is still so popular when it's obviously not true?
Well, because on one level, it's the social engineering that's happening where it's heavily pushed on all social media. So it's the thing you're going to see over and over again. And so there are big names who have been pushed, and then everyone else jumped on the bandwagon and, started repeating the same thing. And so the issue with that is obviously there is an element of truth, right? That's why it resonates with people. There is an element of truth where, yes, we can understand children more. We can bring a lot more empathy and validation. We can bring a lot of tools to help us navigate this parenting and actually thrive and actually enjoy our children. That should be the goal in my mind, that you should enjoy your children. But the problem with that is that it always goes to extreme. I don't know, we live in this very black and white world. I do feel like it's, on purpose though, but it's really pushed to the extreme where then you think, oh, so I can actually manifest just placid, happy children all the time. And if only I validate all emotions, everything's going to work out my way. And obviously, it's also what I mentioned at the beginning, where this is our conscience and our heart and our willingness to protect our children is actually weaponized against us. And because a lot of us actually grow up with authoritarian parents, we have that wound where we are so desperate not to traumatize our kids. And so that's the trick, right? That's what they use to trick us into thinking that we can, if we are, and they call it gentle parenting. I actually call it perfectionism parenting, because it's an ideal that's just completely unattainable. And I feel like for me, I was lucky to have 3 kids actually, because I feel like you can really fall into this trap if you only have one. But when you have 3 children, you realize very quickly that it just doesn't work that way in practicality. So, I'm very much a middle way parenting, and that's actually called authoritative parenting. That was proven actually in the 60s by a body of research that it's the most effective type of parenting. And it's simply, collaborating with your children and being fair, but also very firm. And so they took that, but they took it to the extreme. And now they're calling it all these different names, like gentle parenting and respectful parenting. And when people, like, I'm actually seeing a lot of parents slowly realizing that it's not working, and slowly realizing that they are being gaslighted, and slowly commenting on some videos saying, but like, it's not working. Like, what are you talking about? When I say that, my child actually laughs in my face. And slowly realizing that there's no one size fits all. Like, there are actually probably placid children where it's, the gentle parenting side of things might actually work most of the time. My children are gangsters. They have very strong personalities. So they will be the type of children that laugh in my face if I start talking to them in that sing-songy, Mary Poppins voice, because it's just not me. I'm not being authentic, right? So children can really smell that a mile away. Like, it's so much more about the energy that you bring versus what you actually say. And if your words and feelings aren't matching, kids can really sense that. So I hope I answered your question, but basically, yeah, I started getting really pissed off, to be fair, to be honest, when I was in that space and I was reading all these books. And I think the book that finally completely opened my eyes to all of this is called Unconditional Parenting, where the author was just so judgmental. He was judging mothers taking their kids to the playground for being on their phone for half an hour, because God forbid, you need to be like looking after your kids like 24/7. And so, yeah, I started being really pissed and really seeing very clearly through the bullshit, and seeing that parents were just really confused. It's this sense of confusion. And that's a sense of confusion that's very rife in the new age. And that there's something not right when you're confused, when what you're being told and your actual, life experience is just not matching. What you implement in practicality is not matching what they're saying.
Yes, I agree with that. And it's interesting because if you think about it and search on YouTube, the top most viewed manifestation videos have titles like, "Why am I not manifesting?" "Tips to improve manifesting."
Yeah.
"Why you're not manifesting?" "How to
'Cause it's
manifest
not
better."
working.
Those are the most popular videos on YouTube because it doesn't work. at
Yeah.
least the way it's presented to us. Yes,
That's
like you
right.
said, there's a little bit of truth in it, but the way that it's presented to us, of just think positively and, like you said, talk to your children like Mary Poppins, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I strongly believe that kids need boundaries. I actually think, people think of abuse as authoritarian parenting, where you're being hit and all of that. But I actually think it's abusive to be too gentle with your kids. If you are not giving them consequences when they misbehave, or they do something really bad, you're not building their character. You will be sending them in society to be eaten by the wolves, because they're going to think that everything is about themselves, the cult of self, right? They are actually going to become a bit narcissistic, or
Yes,
they are
yes.
going to be, because also I'm seeing that, right? There's actually a rise in narcissism. And I'm seeing it with children, where there's just no respect anymore. Like, the way children look at adults or even talk to them, the way children talk to their parents, and the parents are not, saying anything. Like, when my kids talk to me badly, I'm always telling them, don't talk to your mom that way. Like, there's no way I'm having this. And that's our job. That's actually our only job as parents, really, is the parenting bit. It's the hard stuff. It's not just, the enjoyment, the actual, purpose of parenting. Really the job of parenting comes in those hard moments where you're going to have to really kill the vibe sometimes, to make sure that your kids actually grow up to be well-adjusted adults in society and actually contribute positively. And this is the whole mess that we're in now, where because of this new age push and this gentle parenting push, and on a side note, actually, some people argue that what I'm saying is because I don't understand gentle parenting very well. And honestly, if you have to explain over multiple videos what gentle parenting is, then you're not doing, like, it's just the term is not helpful, and it's doing a lot more damage than good. But I call all these pacification programs. It's all been done so that we lose our sense of empowerment, our sense of authority as parents, and we become so passive. There are parents who can't make decisions for their kids. Like, only a few weeks ago, there was a mom that was saying that she wanted to take her kids on holidays and make them miss 2 weeks of school, and the school said no. And what should I do, and all of that? Because I'm part of a lot of moms forum on Facebook. I find it actually very interesting, like, from a research perspective. And I just couldn't believe it, that she just completely lost her sense of authority. Like, who cares what the school does? You're the parent. You decide.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I really like what you said about the middle way. in another video, you discussed the importance of balance because, like between left brain and right brain thinking, the heart and the mind. And I definitely agree with that. Why do you think many people are so polarized or tend towards the extremes of one or the other?
Well, I feel like there's different factors. I do actually think it's part of human nature, because it gives us a sense of control, in this out of control world sometimes. Because I've realized that we do tend to like, having stories and making sense of things. And so I do feel like there's a part of it that's human nature, that we have to work with. But I also feel like, it's born out of trauma, that, we've been so traumatized that that's also a way that we use to hold on to a sense of control, I guess, because it's reassuring, right? Like the uncertainty of it all. And, that's what I had to wake up to in 2021. The uncertainty of it all is so frightening. So you hold on to this polarization because it helps you make sense of the world and feel secure, and which is a wrong sense of security, but it's still there. And the third part is that I do really feel that it's been pushed so hard. All the coaching advice actually is, if you have a channel that you try to monetize, they tell you that you have to push polarized content because that's what's getting you views and that's what's getting you people. And so when you go on social media, that's why you're being presented with all these polarized views. So I feel like it's a multi-layered thing. But the best thing that I've ever done was to find that balance again. And so I know that you probably resonate with the fact that I was left brain, because I know you come from a science background as well, right? Like you were a biologist.
Yes.
Yeah. And so for me, I think I realized that, being left brain has been a strength, but I was not enough in my body. I was not feeling enough. And so when you start diving into this gentle parenting advice, and they give you a lot of tips and tricks and all of that, I feel like you're way too much in your head. And so it's not effective because you're not able to actually tune into your child through your heart and your gut, right? You're not able to really listen compassionately or really tune into your instinct as to what to do in each moment. Because honestly, like I don't have one set of advice that I would give. It really depends on the context and, what happened that day with that child, if they're very tired or, whatever, right? That's why it's so much more effective to actually empower parents to really tune into their body and feel and reconnect to their heart and their gut instinct and their sense of authority, so they can do the work on their own. They don't need to rely on any books anymore. They don't need to rely on any experts, and they can really tune into each moment to know what to do and really feel, strong and secure in whatever decision, and sometimes we get it wrong, and that's also okay. That's the balance, right? Sometimes you get it wrong, and thankfully you do have a strong sense, a strong conscience. If you've, done a lot of inner work and it's there, right? If you are a spirited being, it's there. So, it's okay. Like you can get it wrong. You can, apologize to your kids. There's so much learning that happens through that anyway, because your kids need to be able to navigate this matrix, and they need to be able to navigate conflict and how that looks like. And, you model so much through that. So that's why I call gentle parenting perfectionism parenting, because that unattainable version of you that never gets angry or never loses it sometimes because you're so fucking tired and, you've been pushed so hard by the matrix some weeks, like it's just completely unrealistic, and it's gaslighting.
Yes. I'd like to dive into that further. But before we get into that, I just want to note that, yes, I too like to talk about the mind, heart, womb connection for women and the mind, heart, gut connection for men, using both our intellect as well as our instinct and emotions and feelings, integrating all of that. And we'll get into that as well a little bit later when we talk about the inner work. But the next question that I really, really wanted to get into, back to the topic of reincarnation. So you made a great point in one of your videos, as well as what you were kind of just saying right now, about people and parents having too high expectations for absolutely perfect parenting. And, I think the reason why so many people have this subconscious anxiety, and feel they have to get it perfectly right, I must get parenting perfectly right. I explored why that is. Like we said, in my out of body experiences and this whole journey of discovery. And I think that it's because, unfortunately, the spirit guides use your parenting mistakes during the life review as one of the
Mm.
tactics to guilt people into reincarnating. And that's why so many people, they subconsciously come in with this worry, like, oh, I have to get it right. I have to get it right, because they know that in a past life, that was one of the main reasons why they, were shamed and said, well, now you have to go back. So how can we encourage parents to be more authentic and heal from new age spiritual bypassing and emotional invalidation?
It's so powerful that you share that, because I never thought about it that way. That it was, and that's what I love about your channel and your experiences and your perception, is because you zoom out a lot more and you look at it from a much higher vantage point. But it's exactly, I think one of the reasons why I had this perfectionist tendency in my life, that's really, I had this really harsh inner voice at one point, wanting to do a lot of things perfectly, and wanting to do the best, and I've had to work. It's actually been a big part of my inner work journey, to show myself so much more like grace and compassion, the grace and compassion that I give other people, to actually give it to myself. And so, the advice for parents is, honestly, if you're confused with all the stuff that you're reading on social media, take a break. Don't take a long break. Don't even look at that information anymore, and come back to yourself and realize that, the grace and compassion that you give to others is, why do you give it to others, right? It's because for a fact that it's impossible to be a perfect human, and it's actually not the point, because it's not achievable. It's not, you're never going to get there. And you're going to be so unhappy and so disempowered trying to get there, and not present enough in your life. So my best advice is to really step out of all that noise and all that confusion and all that chatter, and just come back to yourself and to your heart, and showing that compassion to yourself. A big part of inner work to me is self-love. And obviously, inner work is very individual. I wouldn't say that to a narcissist, for example. That's the opposite of that for them. But for me, I'm talking from my own personal experience. It's been really coming back to myself and showing myself that love that I was giving everyone else, really recentering and refocusing on that. And I feel like when you tap into that, then you realize that it's never been about being perfect. And that was also a program. And you work on completely deprogramming that from your mind.
Those of you familiar with my work know that my central argument, my thesis, is a video I made titled Crimes of the Gods. And I'll leave a link in the description for those of you who haven't watched it yet. But one of my biggest motivations, why I'm so passionate about exposing the reincarnation cycle, is because, honestly, one of the cruelest things about the reincarnation cycle, one of the cruelest things that has happened to us, is the memory wipe. Not only do we lose memories of our family members, but if you were, for example, a really good parent, like if you did it, you checked all the boxes, you did everything right, but then in the memory wipe, you forget all those skills that you learned. And then in the next life, you end up making those same parenting mistakes all over again.
Yeah.
Then you'll see that in the life review, and told, like we said, that you need to reincarnate because you didn't, do such a good job. So, my motivation, my goal is, if we can help people avoid, the white light tunnel and stand their ground, don't feel pressured into contracts, all the new age, like we just said, the gaslighting, the guilt tripping, all those things they use against us to say, like you said, you made these parenting mistakes when, like we said, the system is already rigged against us, then I believe it's worth it to make these videos. And it was one of my motivations to start posting. So,
Oh,
yeah.
it's so worth it, Lucy. And to me, it's a lifeline to find channel like yours, because we are there, we are, finding each other, and we are helping each other so much. Even if I help, I don't know, 10 parents, I'd be happy, honestly. I'm actually not here to change the world. I don't think this world can be changed. But I definitely have that strong protector in me, not just for myself and my kids, for people. And if I can help, some other souls, I will. I think it's very important.
Yes, yes.
Can I add something, actually? Because
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, you were talking about that life review, and
Yes.
I've explored that a lot. There are several movies that talk about that as well, that clearly show that. I can't remember the movie name now, but and it makes so much sense, honestly, because a lot of stuff that has kept me stuck in this life is actually guilt and shame, just like a lot of people, right? It's a huge program. And so what you say about sharing and empowering people to, pass through the gate, or however you want to call it, is, to me, comes down to inner work, essentially, because it's, one part is the knowledge, and that's what you provide, and that's amazing, right? Because you need to actually know what you're dealing with. But another part is the inner work, because there's one thing knowing intellectually that, you can't be possibly perfect, and, like having this perfectionist tendency is not serving me. But it actually takes a while to deprogram that from you, and it takes practice. Just like, that was so embedded in your neural pathways, it actually takes a while. It takes practice and repetition to rewire your neural pathways and remove that charge inside of you. You know that you're actually doing the real inner work when you feel like a different person. You feel more detached. You feel like you don't have that pull at the heartstrings anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you feel like, and a good testing ground, obviously, as a parent, you can practice that with your children and see if they can really pull at your heartstrings like that. But it's also apparent in the world, right? When they push, I don't know, this war thing, and like they're showing you all these images to like raise money, and, you can feel, for people with that, having that real charge, like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's just like really pulling at the heart. And once you feel that gap, then they can't actually access, and they're not getting loose from you.
Yeah, that does make sense. And that actually transitions very well into the next question. In your Inner Work series, you give even more helpful, specific parenting tips. And I have a couple questions on your Inner Work series. But first, Anna, how do you define inner work, and why is it important?
So I view, and I actually call inner work very intentionally inner work and not shadow work. I guess we all have biases maybe for words. So that's just my thing. But because I view inner work a lot more as deprogramming rather than healing wounds. Because in my experience, the wounds that you think you have are actually a perception issue. So, for example, I made a lot of my childhood stuff mean, that I was powerless, for example. So it's, whatever, obviously there is trauma, right? But the main issue is what you make the trauma mean about yourself, what you internalize. And so to me, it's most of all, it's a deprogramming issue. That's how I view inner work. But then it needs to be embodied, right? And so that's when it takes time, and it takes feeling and shedding the different layers. So it's not as simple as just saying, oh, I'm just deprogramming and that's fine. It takes time. But that's why I'm actually using the term inner work, because essentially, in a nutshell, it's all about deprogramming. But in practicality, as a human being, you do need to actually release whatever's stuck inside of you and all of that. But, inner work is very individual, like I mentioned before. So the main umbrella, the way I see it, is that there is the knowledge piece that I feel is so important, because honestly, you don't know what you don't know. We all have so many blind spots, and we've been so programmed to see things a certain way that you do need to bend that programming and that perception by actually doing more research. And, actually, the valuable research really is to have all the information on the table. Don't censor anything. Just I want it all. I want all of it, and then I'll pick and choose what's what I resonate with as I go. But the second part is the embodiment, like I mentioned before, where you actually need to practice what you're learning. And for me, it was putting it into practice with my children, put it into practice with myself and my relationships, and so if I can just describe what inner work was for me, because then again, it's, we all different, but it's been about, a lot of deprogramming, coming back to self-love, expanding my awareness more and more through that knowledge, having boundaries and really gaining the discernment that actually allows me to have these boundaries. And, to actually give a really good example of what I'm trying to convey here is that, with narcissism, and the toxic relationship that's being spoken about on a lot of social media, they talk to you about the empath narcissist, or like the what's it called, the codependent narcissist narrative, right? And there's so much truth to that, but then they want to make you think that you chose this because of a wound inside of you. And I'm not going to argue that that's not the case for some people. It could be that there are people who are codependent, who are, I don't know, they might be different. So from my perspective, though, is that once I gain the knowledge of narcissism, the narcissist playbook, really observing and seeing it at play, observing when I was being gaslighted and what that was doing to my body and all of that, once I gained that knowledge, I didn't have to work on my boundaries anymore. I didn't have to work on speaking up. It actually became natural. So it's not that I had boundary issues or, I was too insecure, because I'm actually naturally assertive. It's that I didn't have the knowledge. I had those rose-colored glasses that just made me think that everyone acting that way is deeply traumatized, deeply hurt inside, and that maybe if only I explain myself better, they'll understand, because surely we are all human and we are all wired the same way. Now I've realized it's not the case. We actually share this planet with people who don't have the same consciousness as us. I don't know if they're soulless. I don't know, like that. It's obviously debatable. I do feel like the typical narcissist, the one with narcissistic personality disorder, I don't think they are fixable. It's actually been proven that it's a genetic issue, actually. So I don't know. I feel like they are, they operate from a very different consciousness. Obviously, there are other people who have also been traumatized and they have narcissistic tendencies that they can heal from, but it's just so nuanced. And so gaining that discernment and that understanding basically removed any responsibility from me about trying to fix people. I don't need to fix anyone. I'm not here to do that. I will protect myself now that I have that clear sight. And, you do you. I will share my stuff on YouTube, or, if I have friends, and I will definitely share and try to help them. But I'm only actually helping people who are deeply compassionate and respectful at this point. It's not my job to fix anyone else. And so what I'm trying to say, and I hope I'm making sense, is that, whenever you hear about all this shadow work and trauma work, it tends to make you think that you are wounded and that there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed. And in my experience, it wasn't like that. It was actually finding that knowledge about the narcissistic playbook, having that full-on awareness and understanding and discernment, and then everything else is just secondary. Then miraculously, the boundaries and speaking up and all of that just happens, like that, like speaking about like flicking your fingers. So I hope I'm making sense.
I really like what you said about wounds, because that was actually the question that I had about your inner work series. In your inner work series videos, you talk about wounds and how people don't always hurt you because they have inner wounds or unhealed wounds. And that was a great point.
Yep.
But then I wanted to ask, so what other reasons do they hurt us? Is it because of that narcissistic personality that you were talking about, or what other reasons besides unhealed inner wounds do people hurt us?
Well, my personal opinion, and I just want to highlight that it's just my personal opinion based on my experience dealing with a lot of narcissists in my life, is that they operate from a very different consciousness. I don't know if they exist outside of here. And I'm spirited. I'm deeply connected to, I call it my spirit. I know some people call it, I don't know, the divine. Like, we all have different words for it. I know some people get triggered by the word God. I usually call it my spirit. I'm connected to my spirit. I don't feel like some of the people, and so it's very nuanced. I want to say that there are people who act with some narcissistic tendencies who are deeply traumatized. So I want to distinguish that. But there are people, and I think that's what you would call the narcissistic personality disorder, where I don't think they operate from the same, I don't think they're connected. I don't know if the soul left a long time ago, maybe it left in a previous lifetime. I don't know how it works, Lucy. And obviously the thing about me is that it's all, so my psychic abilities are more feeling and knowing, but I'm completely blind. I actually have what people call aphantasia. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so that's 1%. And so I still don't know at this point if it's like, I don't know, an implant or whatever, but I can't visualize. And it's funny because people straight away assume that you're an NPC and all of that, but I actually have a very vivid imagination, and I still see things, but it's not a screen. Like, it's not, and I can never explain it to people, because basically imagination, I think, comes from consciousness. It actually doesn't come from your brain. So basically what I'm saying is that I don't have that sight. So I don't see things probably the way you do, with your OBEs and stuff. And so that's why I love watching channels like yours, because you're giving me vision of things that I'm feeling, if that makes sense. So I've heard people talk about the fact that, we do share this realm with a different consciousness, call it an evil consciousness. I don't know how to call it. And that resonates so deeply with me based on my experience. I actually met a man early this year. I couldn't feel him. And so that's what I mean when I say I only have my knowing and my feeling. That's my strength. It's so strong and so developed. I couldn't feel him. And I think that means that that there's no soul there.
You make a great point. And in your Inner Work series, video number 6, you said that people who have been hurt in the past tend to close their hearts. You said in your personal experience, your intuition protects you. But what advice can you give to others where that may not be the case? How can they learn to love again when they have been so hurt in the past?
So that all comes down, to inner work, like I was saying. And so, to be fair, Lucy, like, I've had to open my heart as well. Like, I just don't want you to think that I'm just all, I've always been this all loving person. No, I've done a lot of inner work, because this matrix, is set out to close your heart and to fragmentize you, right? For you to not like, and the role, the job of the inner work really is to become whole again, even though you've always been whole. It's this perception, it's changing your perception to really believe and feel that you're whole. But my advice would be to really dive into the inner work and start doing research, because I can't give one specific advice to someone just because I'm actually not feeling what they're feeling and I haven't gone through what they've gone through. And so the part of this journey is actually to find an empowerment, to set the intention, to find the information. And I actually believe that when you do that, your spirit actually comes into action and you start seeing magic unfold, where the right information will come your way and you'll slowly find the right tools to help you and the right modality or the right coach that's going to help you. And, obviously there are a lot of traps set out through that, but as long as you keep going and you keep moving and you don't stay stuck in one area for too long, you'll find your way. That's basically what I've done. And I think it's the most empowering advice to give people, because I don't want to give them an advice because that's going to be based on what I've done for me specifically. And because we are so individual and we've gone through different things, there are people who are deeply traumatized and deeply wounded, and they might need modalities like somatic healing and stuff like that. That hasn't been my case. So you know what I mean? Like it's very different. But the closing of the heart is the most, or like the opening of the heart is one of the most important work to be done. But then again, one thing that I want to say is that in the New Age, they keep talking about opening your heart, and for some people, it's true that their heart is too closed, and they have to, that your heart is closed when you're really mean to people, or like when you're very aggressive and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of truth to that, right? They have to do that work. But for some other people, we are way too much in our heart. Like for me, it was actually protecting that heart, and I think that's where my gut came in. Where I had to really tap into my gut to really balance, the mind, heart, and gut connection, where there is a level of protection that comes, because I feel like the heart can be deceiving as well. That's how they get us when we are still too much in our heart, because there is a naivete that came for me through the heart.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes. And that goes back to what we were saying before, how, some people argue, oh, just be in your heart, just be in your intuition, just be in the feminine brain. And then other people argue, no, just be in the left brain, just be in the mind, so yes, yeah. I agree. Like, you should, like you said, you were talking about the middle path being balanced. And I always like to talk about equilibrium. Yeah. And finding that, like you said, the mind, heart, gut connection and the mind, heart, womb connection, that's very important. So I loved that point.
Yeah, and it comes back to what you were talking about, the polarization, right? That's why they talk about just one thing, but it's actually a whole, like it's a holistic approach, and you need to balance all of it.
Yes, beautiful. And I have one last question on your summary videos that you made about raising girls and raising boys and the different stages that they go through. You made this amazing point that I wanted to ask you about, and how girls, and I think boys too, need certain rites of passages. And, in your Raising Boys summary video, you talked about how boys needed the external male mentors for learning skills, responsibility, and self-respect. I love that. And, I wanted to ask you, in old cultures, or in older times, I would suppose, we would have rites of passage ceremonies for children to transition into adulthood. And we don't do that anymore. We don't do that these days. And like you said, children nowadays go through the teenage crisis. They don't have the role models and things like that. So, what do you recommend? How do we go back to that? Because in the past, the children used to speak with the elders and get wisdom from them and things like that. And we don't do that anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, it's so apparent to me. It's so obvious. And I'm actually seeing it from different angles. So there is, it's an area that's actually been very targeted, right? Because there is an epidemic of single mothers. So, and I'm not blaming anyone, I'm a single mom as well. Obviously my kids have their dad though, but it's just, what's happened in this matrix. But, it obviously removes the male figure in a lot of cases to be that model for kids. And obviously sometimes they are toxic, so they have to be aware. But I'm just explaining that there's different element to this, right? So there is that. But also another thing that I've noticed is that parents no longer feel a responsibility for other children. So to give you an example, like if I see a kid misbehaving outside, I always intervene, because I know deep down that it takes a village to raise children. I'm not always going to be there to see what my kids are doing. And so it just takes, and it's so much more powerful in that moment, right? You see the kid doing something, you're like, hey, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's not respectful. And I'm observing so many times, Lucy, that just stuff happens and everyone, all the adults around, just watch and say nothing. So that's when those books really emphasize the fact that what we've lost is just actually so important to make sure that our kids grow up, into being well-adjusted and secure individuals. And that aspect of having external mentors actually applies to both boys and girls. But for boys, especially, that external male figure is very important. And so, like you said, in the past, they had these rites of passages, and, there were a lot of males. And it's also because me as a mother, there is a lot of things that I cannot teach my kids. Like, I'm not a man. There are a lot of things that I don't understand, right? And I don't actually believe that only women know what's right for their kids. Like, I actually can see very clearly that both men and women bring different things to the table, actually. And when it works well, it's very complementary. It allows the mother to be more nurturing, because that's where she thrives more, when the man, the male, is more like doing the discipline and all of that. So I actually think there is a logic and a process where it should be working that way, naturally. But so yeah, the advice in this book is, if you don't have male figures for your boy, to try to find them. There are some out there, like, if even if it's just the soccer coach, or approaching a male figure in your life that you trust, like to ask them to play a more significant role in their life. I know that for me, as a girl, my aunties were very significant when I was growing up. And it's also because parents can't wear all the hats, and it comes back to the reason why I started that YouTube channel, born out of a deep compassion for parents, pushed to do everything. We're not meant to wear all the hats. And, I know for a fact that when I was a teenager, I didn't really want to listen to my parents at some point, right? And that's when those external figures come in, where they can, make sure that you don't fall off the wrong path. And you tend to, when you go through this teenage crisis, you tend to listen to these external figures a lot more than your parents. So having that support network is very important. I know it's very hard to develop these days because everyone's so busy and so self-centered, but there are people out there who are willing to be that role model for your children, and it's just a case of finding them.
Yes, I definitely agree with your analysis there that, children need both the masculine and the feminine examples, and if it's not the mom and the dad, yes, the uncles, a sports coach, something, because they need that example to learn how to grow and be confident. So I really liked that beautiful message, Anna.
Yeah, thank you. I love that you see it as well. Like, even though you're not a mom, but you're surrounded by, your friends' children, and it's just it's
Yes.
beautiful. You know what I'm realizing as well is that the more we are connected to our spirit through that inner work, the more we actually align with the things that we say and the things that we see, and which makes me feel like there's just so much magic happening. Like, I know that it's easy to be, looking at what's wrong, but when you really tap into that power, and that's where I love Anne-Marie, because actually Anne-Marie, I know that like some people have judgments based on just watching one video, but honestly, I've been following Anne-Marie for a year now. I'm in her Telegram group, and she's so grounded. She actually talks about nature being so healing and being key. She talks about always being empowered. So she's so tapped in, and that's why I love listening to her. Like, the video that you did with her the other day was so empowering. Like, if you listen until the end, like, don't make a judgment call based on the first 30 minutes. Listen to the end. There is a way to become empowered, and that's our job here. Our job is not just to wake up to what's wrong in the world and be like, oh my God, like, I'm just this helpless victim and all of that. Yes, we are being victimized, we are being manipulated, but we are actually so powerful. Like, there's a reason why they're doing all this social engineering, and they're doing all this poisoning through the air and the water and the food and all that stuff. It's because we are so powerful when we tap into that spirit, that spark, whatever you want to call. We can bring so much light in here, right? And then we actually help people around us because we act as mirrors for them, and we can be that grounded presence. Again, I'm not seeing this as fixing this place. I don't think it's fixable, but we can wake up some soul to this, so then they can actually get out as well.
Thank you so much for watching my interview with Anne-Marie. We both really enjoyed that, and we're getting very, very positive reviews. So yes, thank you for tuning in. And for those of you who haven't watched it yet, definitely check out my interview with Anne-Marie Eber.
Oh yeah, it was such a good one. Like, you have to watch it.
So Anna, I really, really enjoyed our conversation. For those of you who are new to Anna's material, she can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Grow with Anna B. Anna, what final thoughts do you have on encouraging busy parents these days in this matrix, and how to see through the new age deceptions?
Honestly, for me, it's do the inner work. That's a deep knowing that I have, and I think I actually always had it in a way. Do the inner work. I see not enough parents doing it, and I understand it's because, you know, a lot of them are working full time. They're so tired. They've been traumatized in this place. It's just a lot of people are in toxic relationships and all of that, right? And so it's more appealing to go to tips and tricks and wanting to find a quick fix. But honestly, when you actually do the inner work, you'll be able to change, you know, like completely deprogram yourself and really tap into your own power. And you no longer will be attracted to all that new age crap that makes you think that you can just fix things so easily in one day, right? Like, it's that's my main message. And the reason also why I'm saying that is that you know, I have a YouTube channel I've had it since 2020, and it's grown slowly but surely. I think I've got 10,000 subscribers now, right? But the inner work series that I've done is the least watched series. Like, parents love going in and reading about my parenting book summaries and, you know, giving them the advice and the things that are actionable. But the inner work series, where they actually have to do the groundwork of like working on themselves every day and practicing and all of that, which takes a lot of time and effort, nobody wants to do it. And again, to emphasize, I understand why, but still, you have to do the inner work.
Yes, I agree with that. And that was a beautiful closing message. And again, I am speaking with Anna B of Grow with Anna B. For those of you watching, please leave comments for Anna and me in the comment section below. We will leave links in the description box of where you can find Anna. And like we said, please check out the interview that I did with Anne-Marie on my channel. So, Anna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lucy. I really love that you're bringing different people, different perspectives to your channel. And yeah, I love all your videos, and I love that you're here sharing what you're seeing as well. And thank you for this opportunity. I love it when spirited beings come together and just share, you know, our perspective, our experience. I think there's something so rich about this when we bring our own pieces of the puzzle to the table and we share them.
Yes, it's not only beautiful, it's also very, very important and crucial to share these ideas and get these different perspectives. I totally agree. Yes, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you found my channel. I love it when these kind of, you know, I don't know if you would call it a miracle, but when these things happen, you know, when you just happen to...
Honestly, they do. And the more and more inner work I've done, and, you know, this year I can say that I've really tapped into like something powerful inside of me. I feel so different. I have that foundation of inner trust and all of that. And the more I've done this, the more magic I see, that there's this unexplainable thing that happens with some synchronicities. And obviously there's still bullshit on top, you know, the cherry on top. But there is, you know, we can also focus on that magic of finding really interesting people and interesting channels. And every day I find something new, and I love it. I love also focusing on that.
Wonderful. All right. For those of you, again, watching, thank you so much for listening. Check out Anna B's channel and her Facebook and Instagram. And Anna, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much. Oh, and I plan to post this video on Wednesday, so you can look out for that.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, everyone. Bye.